1.
So what's that old saying? Don't look a gift horse in the mouth? Or don't look a gift rally in the mouth? What is it, folks? Help me out with that today because we got a big old rebound going. The question is whether or not it will hold. S&P adds and deletes. We'll talk about those. Merck, more bad news for Merck. David Trainer, 835, is going to talk to us about Q2 earnings season, what to look forward to in Q3. We're fired up on a Monday. Hope everyone didn't stay up too late watching football. It's pre-market prep.
Welcome to Benzinga's pre-market prep.
This is a volatile puppy here.
It's all about execution styles and strategies.
All right, good morning, traders and investors. We got some green on the screen, up 35 handles at 54.50. That's what we want to see. Strong day for the buck, up nearly 50 cents at 101.64. TLT taking a breather for Friday's rally. That's down 50 cents at 99.06. Crude up 88 cents, but only at 68.55. Gold in the green, marginally hanging out at 25.25. Silver, that's up 26 cents at 28.44. And Bitcoin, that doesn't want to be left out of the rally. Bitcoin futures are up $1,800 at 55,500. All right, let's bring in Triple D. Triple D, you had some action on Friday, huh?
Yeah, it was actually a pretty busy Friday night. I stayed a little bit later than I normally do. You had obviously the big sell-off during the day. And there was follow-through on Friday night. They just couldn't stop selling. They were hitting stocks down another 1% after hours, where NVIDIA was down another 1%. The Qs were trading down, and everything felt like it was still going to fall out of bed. But then the typical thing, what happens? You know, we get over the weekend and they pop them up overnight session. It's just what they do. It's like a week during the day and they pop them up overnight. So what you have is that snapback rally happen, and ADBE, bring him in here too. I mean, it was a really wicked sell-off. So it's kind of predictable that you might get a little bounce back because you got the people coming in, buy the dip. Oh, yeah, I'm looking for cheap stocks. And, you know, that might be the thing to do. But this is a tough market to call right now. It's a tough market to call. ADBE, how are you feeling? How was the weekend? Are you better?
Weekend was okay. Kind of a mixed bag. Feeling better, but then started feeling worse again at one point. But then now I'm feeling better again. I was at the Lions game last night. Went way too long.
Oh, there we go. I knew there was a factor. The Lions factor. Hey, that was an overtime, huh?
Yeah.
I got tired, actually. After they tied in overtime, I was like, I can't handle another. They both get the chances now. Back in the day, you'd stay for the overtime because the coin flip usually was a dictator who was going to win. Obviously, now both get the chance. So it's going too long for me. So I actually did go to bed before the final, but they pulled it out.
Yeah, the reason I say it was just okay. So I was in a fantasy league called a guillotine league, where you get every week the lowest scoring team gets cut. So there's 18 teams every week. One team gets cut. I didn't make it out of the first week. I was the first team cut. Yeah, because last night I went into the game needing like 5 points out of Amon-Ra St. Brown, which should have been like a lock. Like that's nothing for him, and he didn't get it. He had his worst game in like 2 years. And then also one of my picks in the draft, early picks, didn't end up playing this week, so it was tough. I thought there was no chance I would be one of the first team cut out of the 18 teams, but it happened. So I guess the flip side to that is if I'm gonna get cut from that league, like getting cut in the week one isn't the worst thing. Now I don't have to worry about it at all for the rest of the league or the rest of the year. But last week, going back to stocks. Last week, the worst week for the market of the year, actually.
Was it? Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Because if the only other like real bad day was or not bad day, but the only other the yen carry trade that week. Like by the end of the week, we were back at where we started after that Monday. And there's been a couple other down weeks, but last week took the cake as the worst week. And then we're getting bought back today, though, so it's good to see a little rally in the market after after some weak performance last week.
Yeah, and again, you're always skeptical of a snapback rally, and that's the title of the show, and that's what this feels like, because you often see the snapback rally, and what you immediately often get, it's like the same reason we were nervous about stocks bouncing on their earnings last week, because when you got people who are underwater, when you all of a sudden get a bounce back, they're like, oh, give me my money back. Oh, give me my money back.
This is a money back situation.
We have overhead supply all over the place now. There's just stocks littered with overhead supply. And that's because you've got bag holders now in a lot of these stocks. So it's not just easy sledding. Like when stocks are making new all-time highs, it's easy. You know, there's nothing up there. Blue skies ahead. The only bag holders are the shorts. It's not the case right now. You have bag holder longs like NVIDIA. It's going to be a tough go. We're going to have David Trainer on today. I doubt he's going to say anything good about NVIDIA because it's been bearish for a while. But you look here and you think, well, we had the 140 high, and then we sold off to 91. Then we had the bounce back to 130, and we failed hard there. Now we've given almost the entire rally back. There's probably some support in here from 90 to 100, but
it's hard. It's hard. That was the thing, and that was the thing I was talking about over the last couple of weeks. It's like it was easy to figure out where you wanted to sell them, right?
Yes.
But like where to buy them. And Dennis,
I don't know.
You mentioned it too. You were like in a buyer strike, right? And then
I've been on I don't know what to buy. I can't like in the long-term portfolio. I kind of want to buy stocks, but I don't like the setups on anything here right now. I just don't. I'm not feeling like the big rally coming here, and it's probably keeping me somewhat safe. And the trading itself has been difficult too, because even when you're shorting the stocks, it's like they're not going straight down. They're like, it's choppy action. It's actually been a very difficult trade the last couple of weeks, even from a day trading perspective. Like I was saying, in the first 2 weeks of August, I think I had my best start to the month of the year. And then the last 2 weeks were just like chop and slop. And I was like making some money, but I'm like grinding, and it's like I can't get, really those, really going. And even with the sell-off, and I usually do very well in bear markets, like trading-wise, it's been tricky because there's been bounces back. It's not like they were just going straight down or straight out. It's like they drop off and they come back, and they drop off and they come back. It's really been choppy.
Well,
and
you're not even talking about the intraday action. There was a 40-point rally midday on Friday just because who was that joker? One of the Fed guys, Waller, said something.
And it rises 30 points in 30 seconds.
Yeah. And I'm like, oh my gosh. I mean, what a gift. And then it just turned around and it came right back. So
and it gave it back in like 20 minutes. We gave it all back. Like that Waller rally. You can see intraday right there.
Yeah.
You see the snapback? It didn't last long, Joel. It was like boom, and then it's gone. And I tweeted that meme from South Park, and it's gone. I mean, like that just felt like this market here. Boom, Waller gives you a 30-point bounce, and normally that would be enough to get some follow through, some carry through it, and that tells you how heavy the market is. I mean, tape action, reading the tape is just so valuable still, and people don't use it enough. They're just very reliant, on other things. But I mean, when you see a 30-point rally off of a Fed official, and this is why I say you got to do the combo approach. Why did we rally 30 points? Was it for nothing? No, there was a fundamental reason here. Fundamental reason being Waller saying, hey, we may have to go. Yeah, we're going. And the market loved it. But there's just so heavy. There's so many sellers, so many bag holders. They just came in and just started selling stocks right into it. It's like, thank you, give me my money back. Thank you, give me my money back. And that's what it is. This morning's rally is probably the same thing. Thank you, give me my money back rally. And that's why I don't think you chase it this morning. I think there's a little bit more pain ahead. Seasonality is not in your favor. There's no reason to be a hero here.
Dennis, that was around 11. I mean, were you still? I mean, because you usually sign out by then. Was that or was that? Yeah,
I'm in and out. So I'm not always, but I'm in and out. Yeah, and I happen to be there. But I'm usually intraday. I don't usually trade 11 to 2 because it's just I don't usually trade 10:30 to like 3. Like I take those times off for day trading perspective because it's too choppy. It's too sloppy. It's too unpredictable.
Look at
You know,
that.
and that's algo time, you know, like years ago, like I would never do that, take off in the middle of the day, but I've been doing that for years. And I've told you about, like, and I keep telling, you know, other traders that too. My money is made on the open, the close, and, you know, on the efficiency overnight session, the inefficient overnight session. And from a day trading perspective, and even from a long-term perspective, like we've talked about this before, a lot of the moves, the up moves are overnight. I mean, there's a play to just be long, you know, during overnight session and short during, you know, the day, because it seems like lately they sell them off during the day, they bounce them overnight, and then they just sell them off during the day again. I mean, it's all about pattern recognition. That's what trading really is. That's been the pattern. And now we get the predictable overnight session rally up 50 handles from the lows, Joel, because we were down.
Oh, we
On
went down.
Friday
Oh,
night.
yeah. They came out. I was watching the after hours action, and like that close, you never thought you were going to see the mark. I mean, they just came in. 1950 was the mark in the S&P. They took 25 handles off just in a heartbeat.
Yes,
Just a heartbeat. Then they settled it way away from fair value. But you know what? We're doing a market talk. Let's get to some individual issues
there's some good
because
ones.
Let's do it.
we got some good ones.
All right, let's start with in the biotech space. Terns Pharmaceuticals, ticker TERN, getting a big pop this morning, trading up about 30%. Turn Pharmaceutical shares are trading higher after the company announced top-line data from its phase 1 randomized, double-blind, placebo-controlled dose trial to for its weight loss drug. So Turn 601, or no, sorry, not for healthy
Is it
adults.
weight loss? That matters.
Yeah. Yep.
Once daily in healthy adults with obesity or overweight. So that stock is up 30% today. You're seeing a pop there. Bad news for Merck. You mentioned that off the top as well.
And so you got to mention the Summit Therapeutics is actually the news that's affecting Merck. So we'll do two of these small pharmaceutical companies here at the same time. So come out and tell us about the SMMT data too, because that data is very important for Merck.
So Summit Therapeutics is also trading higher by about 30%. That had some news on its it's basically a competitor for Keytruda, and that's one of Merck's biggest drugs. Is this cancer drug?
It's their drug. Keytruda has been everything for Merck. Like Keytruda is like I used to joke on the show. It's like Keytruda fixes everything. It's like works on this and that, and like they have for so many things. It's their drug. Merck. So this drug, Keytruda, is like their drug. It's it's a huge moneymaker for Merck. It's been a huge moneymaker for them for a long time. So SMMT coming out with data on the weekend that's showing that their drug actually may be it looks better in with lung cancer than Keytruda is one awesome for SMMT, which is why it's trading up 31%. But it's concerning for Keytruda because Keytruda, Adam Fierstein, who we've had on the show lots of times, fantastic, tweeting, saying, King Keytruda, taking off the throne here to a certain extent with this data. What does this mean? Well, Merck trading down on this, that's what it means slightly. And Merck, remember, is a huge pharmaceutical company. So, you're not going to see, like some people were saying on Twitter that Merck was going to open up under $100 because of this. I'm like, no, it's not. It's not. This is just your excitement. It's not. But a 2% move down is a big move down for Merck. Merck typically moves like 1% a day most days. So it's a big move down. There could be some follow through here. I mean, Merck has been a laggard, and it is concerning, when, for them, when, King Keytruda here is getting, betted or again, for lack of a better word, getting beat by SMMT in the data. So that's the news anyways for Merck and SMMT.
Okay, real quick technical analysis. Well, first of all, man, you got to pop. Well, really only first of all, 1995, you hit it 630. Okay. The all-time high, go to your bottom right chart here. The all-time high is 1975. Okay, I don't know, kid. I don't know why. If Dennis would say, if you're buying it up there, you're doing it wrong. I don't think we're going back up there today. Of course, I've made some calls on wild stocks and talked about walking on my hands downtown, but I'm not going to do that. I would just say you might have missed your chance at the all-time high, at least for today. Right now, it looks like there's some sellers at 17, so keep an eye on that. That's still 80 cents away. Merck's getting hit on this. I can't believe this snuck back to 120 last week. You got to look at a little bit of a retracement here, 110 to 120. Maybe. Let's see if you find buyers here at the low of last week, 114.47, currently trading at 115. You did have some lower ticks here, but important to hold that 115 level. And then the other stock that we were talking about, Turns Pharmaceutical, that got a nice pop. That's using the buzzword. You had a double top at 10. So what the bulls want to do is make a bid at 10 and then get back up and test that pre-market high at 11.18.
All right, well, there we go. That's we knocked out some of the big biotech headlines all in one go there. Now should we do some S&P 500 ads
Yeah.
that went in over the weekend?
Yeah, and this was huge. And there was some speculation. I tweeted 5 stocks that, that had been speculated out in social media, which ones were going in. Some obvious candidates. There's one in there that was off the board, ERIE, but there was basically 5 stocks competing for a couple of spots here, and 2 of them got in.
So we had, it was Dell Technologies, we had Erie Indemnity.
That was the one that was off the board. I did not
never
see
heard
that
of that
one coming.
I know. It's like, all right, well, it's in the S&P 500 now. We might start hearing about it more, replacing American Airlines, Etsy, and they'd already announced this one, Biorad Laboratories, and Palantir is replacing. Palantir is also coming in, but what, did they already announce Palantir before this, or was that also announced over the weekend?
No, Palantir has been on the board. So if you follow this, and I follow it very closely because I do index ARB and I follow it all often on the Friday nights. Palantir's the last 2-3 ads that we've had, we've been like thinking it's going to be Palantir. It's possible.
Oh, okay.
Well, not, but the market, I shouldn't say we. The market's been thinking Palantir, and then it doesn't go in and it sells off. It doesn't go in and it sells off. The one stock that has been doing that even more is Workday. They have been expecting Workday to go in, I feel like, forever. And every time it doesn't go in, I used to like even play it. I was like, I think it's going to go in. And I remember getting beat the hell up on it. It's very speculative because when they don't go in, it's not like, oh, they don't go up. Oh, no, they crush them because they're expected to go in. And everybody, even was on Twitter, was thinking that this is Workday. Workday's going to do it. It's had the big run up here. It had the gap up, the charts, and not that they're chartists over S&P, but I don't think that it hurts that the chart's going up. I honestly thought it was going to be Workday as well. I thought Dell too, and I tweeted out, what I tweeted out was the 5 possible candidates that I thought was APO, Workday, Palantir, Dell, and LNG, which is Cheniere Energy. I kind of thought Dell was going to go. I felt like Dell, and then I thought it was going to be Workday and Dell. Palantir does go. So Palantir finally goes in. They're listening to social media now because they were all cheering. Everybody's going crazy in Palantir because this is a very loved stock in social media.
It is.
But It's funny, Workday just gets crushed again, down another $7 here because it didn't go in. So if you're playing these ads, it's not always, just like a slam dunk. Okay, I'm going to buy. It's probably going in, because when it doesn't go in and it's expected to go in, they hit it hard.
And what's the official date that they're going in?
I didn't even look that up. It doesn't matter.
I mean,
they move off the bat. They move on the announcement.
Off the bat,
they don't
right?
Typically. And again, do you have the date, AB? On that day, there's usually is some arbitrage opportunities on the close on that day. So I shouldn't say it doesn't matter, but the big move happens on the announcement.
Big move for Dell, and boy, you had all that consolidation at 110. Look at that. Just kind of like the market. Like, are we going to hold 110? We're not going to hold 110. Oh, we close at 102. Oh, we're back at 110. We even got over 110 there. We got into 111 hand. No, 110.88. Man, now you're $3 away from that. I don't know. I just kind of feel that you're even a ways away from a double top. I mean, maybe you get this 108. I think what's key for you traders in Dell today is to clear that high from Thursday and Friday, 108.21, 108.30, and get a bid. get a bid up there. If not, there's a long way back down to the close. You look like you have some scalpers bidding at the 107 area, perhaps taking off some shorts. Palantir has a double dose of good news, a little bit of AI talk. They got an AI contract making a new high of the move. This is a love stock, 33.18. So not too far away from that. Keep an eye on holding 33 in Palantir. Workday, maybe go down and fill the gap. You got some work to do on the downside here. The top of the big gap up day is 236.74. That's still $10 away. AAL is not really moving off this,
Nah,
correct?
IAL's in the gutter.
Yeah.
Still have that small position long-term portfolio. I know it.
Yeah. And anything, any other, did I cover all those that were getting there?
Erie, did you do Erie too? Erie
Oh, it's
Indemnity?
hard to do Erie because,
Yeah, this
I
stock's been a
mean,
monster though. I mean, not
what
on
the hell do
anybody's
they do?
radar, I don't think, for
It's
the
an
S&P
insurance
ad, but it's
company, I
been a
think.
monster.
It's an insurance company.
Oh, there you go. There you go. And then getting the boot, man. Etsy.
What a disaster this stock. A quiet, epic disaster this stock has been. The darling of COVID, and then, the run-up even after COVID. Like, it was even hanging up. It was $300 a year after COVID. It was so strong. And then, kaplooey, I'll say it for you, Joel, it's fallen, and it just keeps falling. And you are now at 4-year lows here on Etsy here. Like, I mean, and obviously, just getting back towards the 51.45 would be a 4-year low or 3-year low.
Yep, there you go.
It has been an epic disaster here. And what this tells you, again, is valuation matters in the long run, folks. It doesn't matter when the story is hot. Matters zero. Like, people who trade on valuation and the story is hot don't know what they're doing. Story is hot, don't worry about valuation. But when the story cools off, when the momentum cools off, that's when valuation matters. And Etsy was always trading at a nosebleed valuation. And really, to a certain extent, it still is. It's come down, but it's 24 times current earnings. So now it's gotten a lot more reasonable. Only 14 on a forward basis, but I don't know if I trust that 14 on a forward basis because this company has not been firing on all cylinders here. Yeah, like, it's one thing when you got, companies firing on all cylinders to look at those forward multiples, but sometimes those estimates can come down, when they're not firing on all cylinders because analysts were all excited. So it's actually quietly kind of went from a growth stock to a value stock. But when you're trading 60, 70, 80 times earnings, make sure that story stays hot. The first indication that you get the growth slowing, get the hell out.
All right, and then so those are the S&P adds and subtractions right there. Other individual stock news, not a whole lot this morning, but we do have a bunch of economic data coming our way this week. Of course, on Wednesday we'll get a CPI report, which should give us just some more insights into if the Fed will be cutting 50 basis points or 25. At least people will be speculating. And then PPI on Thursday. Going back to some stock headlines, we did have finally a positive headline for Boeing. Feels like the first positive headline we've gotten for Boeing in years. Yeah, I mean, but Boeing shares are up 4% right now, and so this is after it was reported the company reached a tentative deal with the workers union to avert a strike that would have started this week on September 13th. That's this Friday. So Boeing avoiding the strike here, getting a pop. The stock is trading up about $6.40 or 4%.
Joel, I mean, we've talked about this level. It kind of is still holding in there. We talked this 158, 159. It did take out the April low at 159.70. It is through it, but you're kind of still hanging out here. I mean, there's so much bad news priced into this stock. It's not an easy short at this point in time, but it's not an easy long either. It's a really hard trade. And again, so many headlines on Boeing coming out all the time. The shorts are like, well, it's always negative headlines. Well, all of a sudden you get a positive headline. So does this ignite the story? Do I think Boeing's going out of business? No. Has the valuation come down more reasonable? Well, it's hard to value it because I haven't been making that much money anymore. It's 37 times forward earnings because the earnings have come down so far, from where they were making, years ago. So Boeing is a tricky one.
They must have been listening to PreMarket Prep last week because I was like, And I didn't even know about the whether the impending strike. I'm like, who wants to work at Boeing, right? I mean, it's always bad news or always in trouble. It seems
Well, they
like
probably
there's
get
some.
paid really well.
Yeah, well, and then now they settle the strike. I mean, does that? I mean, if you bought the dip on this at the bottom of the range, I don't know, man. This thing it starts going one way. I think the market's helping out today. Let's see what the pre-market high is, 168.39. I mean, I would look at that 168. We're already $5 off it. It's already starting to fade. Better hold 163. 162.85 was the top of yesterday's range. But I mean, does this make the company better? I mean, okay, so they don't have a strike. They don't have workers. Are they fixing planes? Are they getting more orders? Is this better for the bottom line? I mean, I don't know. I don't. I
I don't
mean,
know. They've just
discrete.
screwed up so much at
I
Boeing,
know.
to like even stranding those astronauts out there. It's like they can't do anything right. And and maybe this is averting the strike. This is going to be the big turnaround story here, but I don't think so. I don't think this is that headline that turns it all around. People are just waiting for the next Boeing part to drop. Like, I mean, this has just been a disaster story all around.
Yeah.
We need some comfortable, like, okay, you're on top of it. You're not, cutting corners or whatever you're doing that, a door is blowing off or, a wing's got an issue or this, or you're stranding astronauts. We need some, what would really help Boeing is just no negative headlines for a while. Like a lack of news.
Yeah. Yep.
A lack of news would probably help this stock. Because every time it wants to start getting going and starts to look okay on the technicals, a bad headline hits and knocks it back down. It's probably the hardest stock, besides biotech stocks. This is probably one of the hardest stocks for headlines. Like if you're just trading this on a technical basis, this thing is driven by headlines, folks.
Sorry, I was on mute there. Someone in the chat was saying, give it a few days, there'll be another negative headline on Boeing. And
few days. I mean,
yeah,
Few hours.
Give me
Something else. Like, oh yeah,
give me a few hours. The way
are the analysts behind this stock at all, Dennis? I really haven't. I mean, I wouldn't touch it with a 10-foot pole, but I was just wondering. I mean, it'd be hard to be covering this stock with all the headlines on it, but we shall see. As I said, let's hold the top of yesterday's range, and got some work to do on the upside. I mean, a lot. I mean, we talked about at the beginning of the show. We came on. And in my intro, is this, a gift rally? Like if you were buying the dip and you didn't puke it out on the close on Friday, and you didn't puke it out all over your desk in the after hours, and now you're like, wow, that went so far against me. Now I can break even on this. I think that's what you're seeing in the market here. So I think
That's what you're seeing on stocks. That's what you're seeing in this market in the last 3 weeks. This is the issue again that we have, is that there's just technical work to do to try to get a rally going. And every time we get a little bit of a rally going, the sellers just swarm in and sell stocks again. I mean, even this morning, look what's happening here. We're starting to leak. We start to leak. S&P, go back to the S&P. We're leaking here. It's not good news when we start to leak. Do I think you can buy some stocks long term? Maybe start to nibble back in long term on some stuff? Yeah, I think you can start nibbling here, but I don't think this is the market where we're just going to rip roar to new highs in the next couple of weeks. Could we be at new highs by the end of the year? Maybe, but we got a lot of work to do in between now and then.
Apple's red.
And it has the event today.
Yeah, so Apple's preparing for its event today where it's going to, talk more about its AI offerings and its phone. The new iPhone set to come out here in a couple weeks. I also saw a headline on CNBC that Huawei, there's a Chinese smartphone company called Huawei that's selling, or that did, let me get the exact of that. Huawei's trifold phone gets 2.7 million pre-orders ahead of Apple's iPhone 16 launch. So Apple's been kind of losing some market share there in China. Not great news for Apple. But again, Apple getting ready to gear up for this event today. Lots of excitement about what they will announce regarding the exact AI offerings in its new iPhone. But last time we had an Apple event, the stock sold off during it as the AI Apple intelligence kind of failed to impress people. So this will be interesting, I think, to see how volatile Apple is during the event today. The new iPhone. So I think it launches today, but I don't know when it's actually able. I don't know when the iPhone's actually hitting the market. Let me get that date.
It is $5 off the highs from Thursday and Friday. there is no participation here. I mean, people probably
on
were
the upside
leaning.
or the downside. I mean, Apple's
Yeah.
just been quiet. I mean, it's held up very well. We talked about the relative strength, Joel. I mean, the Qs have given back over half of the rally from August, and actually, yeah,
It's holding
420,
in there.
480, 450.
Yeah.
We've given back half. Apple was down under 200, 196 to 230. I mean, half that back would be like 210, 212. So Apple's actually had a lot of relative strength here, but just seems quiet. Maybe this is
This
ahead of the event. Like maybe this is going to be the mover.
Yeah, maybe we just talked just real quick the relative strength here. Microsoft, I mean, that's given a lot back. Amazon, let's go to Amazon. That had the Bezos sell at 200. That's holding up. I mean, it didn't get as high relative to the S&P at the all-time highs, but that's trying to hold in here at 170. Google is below the August low, folks. Below the August low. That's not good. That's not good at all. And Meta had a big bounce 2 days, and Meta's still kind of hanging in there. That was a bad day on Friday there for Meta. I would have said until Friday, Meta was kind of hanging there with your all-time high over
Tough day Friday.
540. Yeah, bad day on Friday for Meta.
And
But
the Google story we've talked about, and I'm uncomfortable buying Google, even though the valuation's cheaper, but it's cheaper for a reason is that we're concerned that chatbots are eating search's lunch. And if that's the case, that is not good news for your Google position.
Yeah, so the Apple, there's no exact date for when the iPhone will come out. They're going to announce the release date today. So they're calling the event Glow Time. We'll see again if they're able to give some
What is the glow thing? I don't know. Like is there the phone glows? Like what's the glow? Do we know?
I think that's just their like marketing tagline for it. It's Glow Time is what they're going with. So it's instead
a
of
glowing phone.
Instead of it's go time, it's glow time. So I guess
Well, there
we'll
must be
see.
some type of product that's glow then or something. Is there something feature in it that glows or
We
what?
don't know. We don't know yet. We don't know yet.
Totally
So,
told us.
you know, again, the at the WWDC, the World Developer Conference, the Apple. A lot of people were really bullish on Apple going into it because they were going to announce their AI stuff. The stock sold off during it, got bought back up after it. I'm curious if today is going to be kind of similar, where it's almost a sell the news event. But either way, that will be one of the top headlines today. Another headline that I don't know how much we care about because it's more now it's in the it's a private company that bought it, but Big Lots officially entering bankruptcy, sells business to Nexus Capital as it begins bankruptcy proceedings. So Nexus Capital is a private investment firm. So Big Lots will go off the market. Again, not sure how much. What's that?
It's gone now.
Gone.
Yeah, it went off.
You called that, Dennis. You said once it went below $1, you were like, this is on the way out.
Yeah, and it's just trading on the off exchange here now, not trading on the exchange here this morning. So it's gone off
Walmart?
exchange.
What about Walmart? Walmart hanging. Ooh, look at that. Pretty good relative strength in Walmart here.
Unbelievable. We've talked Walmart's eating the dollar stores lunch. Walmart's eating everybody. Walmart, Costco versus everybody else. Basically in retail, you have Walmart and Costco, Amazon, awesome. Everybody else sucks. That's pretty much where it's at. Like, there's many exceptions. Somebody in the chat's going to say an exception, but we know the dollar stores have been a disaster. The major department stores have been a disaster. You know, a lot of those mall-based retailers have been disasters. Even Abercrombie and Fitch coming down here lately, which has obviously been a darling. AEO, a darling coming down here lately too. I mean, you know, Kohl's, Macy's, Nordstrom's, all just epic disasters. The Macy's real estate's worth so much money that everybody's going to buy them. It's $14 here now. Retail's just been a mess, except for Costco, Walmart, and Amazon.
Yeah, so we have Big Lots officially off the board there. Let's see some other headlines that we have not gotten to yet this morning. So we do have, I mentioned the economic data coming this week. We do have a couple companies reporting earnings, a few big ones this week. We have Oracle tonight. which we will be watching that one. Oracle is probably the biggest. We also have Adobe later this week. Outside of that, not a lot of big reports. Dennis, do you have any of the other ones that are reporting this week outside of
So
Oracle?
I've written down everything. Oracle is tonight. Tomorrow we got GameStop. People are probably interested in GameStop.
Yeah.
We have Dave & Buster's play. We have ASO. Wednesday, there's really nothing. Some people like that Mind stock, MIND, but that's like a $3 stock. Adobe, RH on Thursday. I believe Kroger's on Thursday too. I haven't written down there. I haven't double checked that one. Signet Jewelers, another one. So you got a few retailers, but this is a very light earnings week, and most of these stocks have been in the gutter as well. Adobe's held up really well, but Restoration Hardware has been leaking here. Signet Jewelers has been just a disaster. Dave & Buster's play has been a disaster. So you could say it's a low bar earnings week. Oracle's held up pretty well. I sold my Oracle. Remember, I sold it a while ago. Had in the long-term portfolio I had in the long-term for like 10 years. Then it went up. Then it came back down. I re-put it in the long-term portfolio because it kind of came back down to where I was. And, and then I just sold it recently at $140. So I don't know.
What do you
So I'm out of
think
Oracle
about
again.
that? This looks
This
like,
tough.
this I'd say, oh boy. If you're a long-term holder in this one, I mean, it's been really moving off the earnings. You got the all-time high coming in at 1 to 46.50. You're $5 away from that, or $4 away. I don't know. This kind of feels like here you had the last report, you had the gap ago, almost filled the gap. It's gonna gap. I just wish it's gonna gap, and it's gonna gap big. I just, which way. I don't know what the straddle's trading
Let's
on
see
this
what
one
it is.
at.
I'll go grab
Yeah.
it. Keep doing the technicals.
Yeah.
Taking 2 seconds to get the
Whew.
straddle here.
Boy,
Bringing
oh
up
boy,
the
oh boy.
options chain. Remember, when you want to figure it out, just add up the calls and the puts and the closest strikes. So we go to the weeklies on the Oracle. Bring it up. September 13th is the weeklies. We grab the 141 closing price, so we can grab, well, they have them every dollar, 142. Looks like 550, 570. I'm just ballparking because the options are closed. About $11, a little over $11. A big move. That's more than I'd expect in Oracle. It's usually somewhat conservative, but it does have big moves on earnings. It moves up big or down big, usually always on earnings here. $11 is the expected move. It's a tough tape for Oracle because the stock's sitting near 52-week highs.
Who's going to buy?
And not a lot of other stocks are up near 52-week highs. So there's caution probably. I do have day trading position in Oracle here right now. Just full disclosure, I like to be long stocks out of reports. I will be selling that at the open probably.
All right, 8:37 here. Time to go to our guest for the day. We have David Traynor, the CEO of New Constructs, hanging out backstage. Let's give David our special pre-market prep and see what he's been watching this Monday.
David Traynor, CEO of New Constructs here. And David, I'm going to start. Do you got a football player in your family?
We got 3.
Whoa.
Wow.
3.
Wow.
Yeah.
High school or football?
One in
high
college,
school or college?
College, and then a senior in high school, and then a freshman in high school.
Wow.
Very
Are you a
nice.
football
Very
player?
I tried to be. It wasn't very good, but it was still fun.
Okay. All right. Just wanted to get that in. I saw your tweet. You're very proud of them. Here we are. Earnings season really never ends, right? In these markets, it's like, Q2. And then all of a sudden I'm looking at the calendar for October for JP Morgan. But just overall, paint it with a broad brush. Forget about the yen carry trade. Forget about the Fed. Just overall expectations, valuations for Q2.
Yeah, I think valuations have peaked. I think that earnings have peaked. We're seeing the signs when we look at a macro level. Returns on invested capital are coming down. Economic earnings are in decline. This is across the entire market when we build a model for the S&P 500. Free cash flow is in decline. Now, the interesting part about all that is that different sectors are up and down. So it's not universal across all sectors and all companies. And I think that's going to be a major theme going forward. We're not looking for some huge cataclysmic overall market decline. We do think there are going to continue to be cracks in the shell, so to speak, of this sort of super market that we've seen in the last 5 months, 5 years, 10 years. And so the market's just going to become more discerning. And I think that's because on the margin, Joel, that there's less liquidity, right? The liquidity sort of boom that we've had. I believe it's tapering off. And on the margin, that just means there's less money to chase these speculative stocks. And some of those are going to start coming back down to earth.
All right. Well, let's go to some individual sectors here, and I guess we can start with the semis. We've had John over the course of time here with Nvidia coming down, and I know everyone has their different way to to evaluate the stock here, but boy oh boy, made put the hurt to a lot of bears and putting the hurt to a lot of bulls.
Yeah, no, Nvidia to me is almost like the quintessential sort of, or the most representative stock in the market, because we saw in that yen carry trade flash crash, and I know you said not to talk about the yen carry trade, but I do think it's symbolic of the liquidity environment. And
Sure.
that is that the liquidity environment is no longer growing. It's no longer becoming more liquid. We are on the margin becoming less liquid. And the stocks that got hurt the most.
How do you measure that? I'm sorry to interrupt. How do you measure that? I mean, I look at the volume of this thing. Why do you say it's less liquid?
I think that the taking away the yen carry trade and the yen was a source of liquidity, and that's gone away. I think the other sources of liquidity, the quantitative easing and things like that, have gone away, and that we're moving more toward tightening. And they're going to need to move toward tightening if they're going to lower rates without having to, without sort of lighting the economy on fire with more inflation. So I think that's my guess. I don't have a really scientific way of proving it to you, Joel. When you get into some of the macro charts, there's 50 million of them. But I do think on the margin, the way we're sort of reading certain stocks is these really super overvalued, almost supercharged, leveraged, speculative stocks, are starting to get crushed. Nvidia being among the most popular, and we just think it's time. The valuation for Nvidia, price to perfection is sort of an understatement. When we did the work a couple of weeks ago, the stock price implied that Nvidia's revenues were going to be more than the GDP of India in 2023. And so it's just kind of an absurd level of embedded growth and profitability in the stock. That's been the case for a while, but when the liquidity environment begins to change, now all of a sudden, the markets become a little bit more discerning about where they're going to just sort of speculatively throw money.
Did you try to give like and obviously you're not an analyst here, we're not thrown into the bus, but do you have like a price target, what you're thinking, or a valuation where you think Nvidia would be more attractive, where it's reasonably valued, David? We know you've been on the wrong side of this for a while here, but you've been on the right side the last couple of months because Nvidia is coming back down here. So just curious, like when you're doing metrics and, projecting revenues out, do you have like a fair value for Nvidia?
We don't do target prices, Dennis. But when we look at sort of at Nvidia from a sort of a valuation or a value perspective, when we look at, for it to get really cheap, we're talking well under 50, well under $40.
Yeah. Okay. So, and again, it's a forward multiple, and this was the reason I sold, a lot of my Nvidia stock here too. It just had run too far, and there was, the revenue growth coming. The story was hot. There's lots of reasons to be in there, but even I was looking at Microsoft, and maybe you can move on to that one. I had Microsoft for a long time too, and I'm like, I paid things like 29, 30 times, and now it's 35 times earnings. I mean, at a certain point in time, stocks just become fully valued, like where, it's not as easy to grow a $3 trillion company as it is a $1 trillion company. So, that's where I'm at. It's like people keep asking, what are you buying on this pullback? What are you buying on this pullback? I was like, I'm looking at valuations and metrics, and just like, so it's just not that cheap.
Agreed, Dennis. You took the words right out of my mouth. I think, the way I see it also is that a lot of retail and almost meme stock investors decided, what? We can invest in the stock market without investing in ridiculously broken companies. We can invest in good companies too. So why don't we put it in things like Microsoft or Berkshire Hathaway, right? It's a lot less risky bet, and it's still a good way to earn some quick money. And I think that trade has worked. But to your point, these trades have become crowded. Nvidia got really crowded. Microsoft's really crowded. Yeah. Supermicro was really crowded, right? And that's what our systems have been sort of flashing. Good companies, bad stocks. And I think for the retail investor, the at-home investor, it's been a good move because meme stocks are bad companies, bad stocks. At least something like Microsoft NVIDIA, that's a good company and a good stock. But it's yeah, the valuations, it's become crowded because think about it, like everybody's in the stock market these days. Who doesn't invest? How many stock market shows out there are there? I mean, it's getting, you got to really do your homework and not just follow the crowd if you want to outperform in more discerning markets. And that's what I think we're going into.
There is opportunity though. Like, I mean, there's a lot of stocks that have been undervalued for a very long time. Would you be looking at those, or the story's just too cold? I mean, you can see if you do a scan, you can find, hundreds of companies trading under 13 times earnings. I mean, there is some cheap stuff out there. Is it their time, or are these stocks just value traps?
That's a great question. And I think, David Einhorn had a great interview on this one. And he was saying what you're saying effectively. And what he said, we just gave up on the market recognizing value, right? Because when the market is chasing these super expensive stocks, clearly it's not recognizing value on the high end, which is naturally leads to, they're not recognized. The market's not going to recognize value on the low end either. And so when will it, and I can't, my crystal ball's in the shop again this week. So it's hard for me to say exactly.
Get that crystal ball fixed.
It's harder and harder to find people who will fix your crystal ball, believe it or not. And so, yeah, we've got a lot of stocks on our focus list that we like that are cheap. Some have been cheap for a while. Some aren't cheap anymore. In fact, we look at it, our focus list long now, and we're like, okay, it's probably time to start closing some of these because we've even let some of them run a little bit more than we would have because, look, everything was running. So it's harder to find cheap stocks, but you're right, Dennis, there are a lot out there, and it's going to be interesting to see if and when the market ever comes back to recognizing those stocks. I can't predict for sure that it will.
Is there anything you're buying today? Is there any like sectors or specific stocks that you're like, hey, I like this setup right now, and I think this is a good time to strike?
Yeah, we have been fans of certain energy companies, and especially those that are refiners and more middlemen type firms. Even some of the MLPs. We like another couple companies we like a lot are Alpha Metallurgical Resources and Warrior Met Coal.
What are those symbols?
AMR and HCC. Those are two companies. We found them a long time ago, and they've done really well. But they were sort of thrown out, baby with the bathwater, so to speak, because everybody was against coal, and these firms actually produce a type of coal that isn't so bad for the environment and is required for the making of steel, where we're seeing quite a bit of a shortage in the world. So that's those are a couple that we've liked a lot. We still like some non-cyclicals like Kroger, and some cyclicals like a GM and Ford. We think those are value stocks that have been overlooked for a long time because so much money went into the EV businesses, which I think that's running its course. We also like JP Morgan. It just makes so much money, huge free cash flow generator, and super low risk business as well. Like we've joked before that we think JP Morgan as a single stock is less risky than the S&P 500.
Wow. And then in terms of the overall market, David, what I guess would be your sign that okay, valuations have come in now. Now would be a good time to buy the overall market, like to buy the S&P 500, or just, wait and see, or are you waiting until more stocks kind of fall back to a level that you feel comfortable with?
Yeah. Again, it's tough to make some sort of prediction like that because there's a lot of things going on here. You think about sort of the Goldilocks scenario that we've been in terms of walking a fine line and getting a soft landing and keeping inflation in control, keeping the labor market up. And, I don't know, we're dancing between multiple wars, between what we've got in the Ukraine and the Middle East and what might happen with China and Taiwan. I think we're in a rather precarious position as a global economy, and we got an election coming up. So I think there's going to be a lot of potential volatility there. In the past, that's been the case. So I think, before I'd want to like dive in and just start scooping stocks up indiscriminately, I'd want to see the S&P, come down at least 10 to 20%. In the meantime, I think you got to be just really careful. Like Dennis said, you got to be able to kind of pick and choose your spots intelligently, get into stocks where the risk reward is good so you can handle downside if downside comes and take advantage of the cheapness when the market gets bullish again.
What about the utilities here? I mean, you talk about boring, but I mean, you're looking at this XLU here up near all-time highs. I mean, obviously, we need energy here. The anticipation of lower interest rates here. I mean, I think the two shocking, or not shocking, but the utilities and the housing sector. I mean, I saw some of these housing stocks up or even up on Friday. And I remember you talking about Lennar. I think it was Lennar, long time ago. Wish I would have listened. But give us these your take on these two interest rate sensitive sectors.
You're right, Joel. We've been bullish on Lennar, NVR, DH Horton in particular. Those two, NVR and DH Horton, been on our focus list long for a while. And so, yes, those were some really cheap stocks, and on that front, there's some other consumer cyclicals on that front that we like a lot as well that have been really cheap and were overlooked. And so we're still bullish there.
You
And
still like them? You still like them?
Yes, like them more than other stocks for sure. They would be on the list of companies though that we're looking at and saying, these guys have taken a great run, and if the market is going to be indeed turning, it's probably good idea for us to take some money off the table on some of those because they've done extremely well. At least NVR on that front.
Yeah, boy, I look at $9,000 stock. That looks like be trade by boy.
Yeah, it looks like a nightmare to try to get in and out of.
Yeah. Okay, David. And any final thoughts here? Just a bad week. I believe Aaron said it was the worst week of the year last week. You're getting your traditional snapback rally here this morning. Investors sit tight. We got the debates tomorrow, I believe. Any closing thoughts for our traders and investors?
Yeah, just be careful out there. It's a tougher market. We're not just seeing sort of one directional movements up as much as we were, and I think that is going to be more of a feature, not a bug, over the next 6 to 12 months. And it's time to invest a little more carefully, a little more rigorously, and not just chase the momentum.
All right, David Trainer, CEO of New Construction, joining us here on Pre-Market Prep. David, always a pleasure to have you on. We'll dial you up after next earnings season, and we got a quad witch, got an election, we got a lot of things going on. We'll get you on again soon. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
All right, we're hanging in there, Dennis. Still pretty green on the screen. 35 up, 35 handles. You seeing anything out there? It's kind of been a little bit of a
Well,
tight
it's an
range
interesting
here.
market because you're kind of mixed. Like you're mostly up, but it's like a combo approach where you got tech trading higher, but banks are strong here too. And usually seeing oil is strong. You usually don't see all those things going up together. So it kind of feels like an everything rally here today. There's still a few pockets of weakness, but most things are up here today. So usually you start to see separation after the open. They come in and they're kind of just buying stocks across the board. I'm cautious chasing this though. So I'm just going to play it cautiously. I mean, if we look under the hood, you want to find pockets of weakness. IWM relative strength is not great. It was hammered on Friday. And the S&P is getting good bounce back. Lots of tech stocks trading up 1%, but small caps kind of getting left behind here again. Maybe that changes after the open. Maybe they'll come into the IWM, but right now it's barely up. So that's the one red flag that I do see. I can't bring myself.
We can't give this all back.
Rally.
We just can't give this back today.
And that's the problem is we very much can, and that's where I've got an issue in coming in here and saying, yeah, the worst is behind us. The Friday capitulation is over. Now we're going straight back up. It's just not that simple, folks. I think we got a lot of work to do.
All right, one sector is seeing a little bounce in this morning right now are the pot stocks. We don't talk about them too much, but MSOS getting a pop here. This is after Donald Trump came out and basically said that he will be supporting or he's against, arresting people and stuff like that for marijuana. So kind of going. So it's basically looking like either administration at this point would be more friendly to the cannabis industry than some experts had anticipated. There was some other headline too that I saw last week about they're finally supposed to give a ruling, but I think MSOS is popping up higher on this news from Trump again, coming out in a more positive manner for the cannabis industry.
Nice pop. I mean, you can look at some of these stocks though, and just like CGC, Joel, like just bring this one up. The darling of cannabis. This is best of breed. Remember Kramer was up there when the thing was $500 a share saying, yep, this is the one Constellation Brands. This is best of breed. It's $4 from 600. I mean, can these things rally to 5 or 6, and can they have some bounces, and can they, have some snapbacks and get 10% pops? Sure, they can. They got lots of 10% pops all the way down, but they've just been so bad and so ugly. And if you want to talk about bag holders, they won't tell you on Twitter, but all of these pot stock holders, they're all huge bag holders. Some of these guys down 98%, 97%. What an epic disaster all of these stocks have been. Pre-market prep's been all over this.
I think that I might have saw something in Barron's about this, a little bit of on the positive side. I just kind of ripped through it. But I just want to the only technical I'm going to do here is MSOS, and that had just great support at 7, right? Look at all that support, and then boom, it fell out of bed. You've got you kind of touch it in the pre-market. So if you knock out the 7 seller, well, don't get too excited because you have 3 tops above that at 730. So opening into resistance, if you want to try and pick it up on the cheap, the top of yesterday's range, 666. That's only 30 cents away, so seller could come in. But Dennis, you know what I saw on Barron's? I saw a positive article, and let's see if it's responding.
What?
Celsius.
Celsius, really? Celsius had a positive article. What did it say?
Oh, just that it got overrun, and then it's coming. Oh, voters give cannabis a thumbs up. Hear why investors don't. I wish I could find it. I should have taken better notes. Oh, this energy drink stock can still provide a jolt. Celsius is getting its products on more shelves, selling more online, and expanding overseas. It looks oversold. Ho, ho, ho.
I had a Celsius over the weekend.
Yeah, how was it?
It was good. It was good. I needed it at the time. I think it actually did give me a little pop.
Can you really tell with those things?
I don't know. It might be a little placebo. It might be a placebo. Yeah,
I tasted it once. It's not pretty good. It tastes pretty good. I thought it was good drink. I don't know. I just ain't trading 70, 80 times earnings for a beverage company. No, it's come down. It's come down.
Oh,
the stocks from 90 to 30 in like 2 months. The valuation damn well better be coming in. It is currently trading
forward PE of 27.
27 times forward earnings, 31 times current earnings. Monster, which is your comparable, I'm sorry it is, folks, 24. And Monster's best of breed. That's a premium multiple for Monster. You go to Coke, which is your traditional beverage company, 23. So it probably settles in. If it's going to have lasting effects, it probably long-term 22, 23 times earnings is probably fair for, beverage company if it really sticks, long term. So that would bring the valuation about another 20%. And then maybe you're saying, okay, it's a value stock. But if you think going back to growth, maybe this is the time.
It's hard,
Barron's
man.
Going back
how often
they're trendy.
Do they turn like that? When you're such a growth stock and then you go kaplooey, I mean, oh boy, I mean, you could employ the golden rule of technical analysis here back when we used to chart by hand, sell the top of the page, buy the bottom of the page, but the bottom of the page keeps expanding here. So it's getting, we're getting a little bit.
That's the worst story ever. The last 3 months.
Gosh.
Oh my gosh. Just such a bad story. In 3 months, give back like 2 years of gains
1, 2, 3
here and still trying to go lower here. So it was an awesome story for 4 years. The last 3 months, just a terrible story. I do think it's oversold. I do think it's due for a bounce. Barron's actually, that vote of confidence came out Thursday though, so that news is already in there. I just looked up that.
Oh really?
I wanted to go read it, but it came out September 5th. Yeah, it was probably in the weekend paper because they're publishing. But again, just cautious to the chasers on this one because that that
Nice.
was already kind of priced in there. I do think I'll give it to you though. I give it to you. The stock is massively oversold. Like I would not be wanting to short it at this point. This is ridiculously oversold. So it's probably due for a bounce.
There you have it. All right, that will be a wrap for us today on Pre-Market Prep. It is 9 a.m. Tomorrow, of course, is a Tuesday, which means it's a T3 Tuesday. I don't know the exact guest yet, but they're all great when they come from T3.
Oh,
And then, of course, on Wednesday is the CPI report. So we're going to go back to back. We had Blue last week. We're going to bring Blue on again on Wednesday. Looking forward to that. So thank you to everyone who tuned in to Pre-Market Prep with us this Monday morning. We do have live trading starting up after this. We'll see you guys tomorrow morning. You guys know where to go. 8 a.m. We'll see you then.